We are back, and it's good to be back. The Cook County Bar Association, the world's oldest African American bar association, established, I believe, 1914. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Our guest is Mika Thompson. My name is Louis Powell, and it is our pleasure to come before you once again to bring interactive information that you can use. And it will be no fun if I just talk to Mika. Again, it would be fun to talk to Mika, but seriously, the Cook County Bar Association is about giving out information. So we want you to call us. That number is 312-738-1060. 312-738-1060. Please give us a call. We have our phone technician, former President Sharon Strickland, one of the world's greatest attorneys of all time, and she's standing by to take your calls. Today's topic is same-sex marriage. Okay, let's just break it down for basics. What are the requirements for getting married?
The marriage in general for both same-sex and heterosexual couples is to, you have to have the intent to marry, and then you have to have solemnization and license, and that license needs to be registered in the county where you are performing the marriage, or the county where you're going to live. And so in the state of Illinois, both same-sex and heterosexual couples are able to marry once they satisfy those requirements.
And what are those requirements again?
Again, it's an intent to marry. You have to demonstrate an intent to marry. You have to have solemnization. You have to have a license, and that license needs to be registered in the county in which the couple is going to be residing. Now, the definition of solemnization really is just the ceremony. So under the law, the ceremony can take place in a traditional marriage, that is a church or at a temple or at the religious location of your church or temple or faith. It can take place there by your religious leader, or it can take place in the county building or the clerk's office that is designated by that county for marriages that are going to be done pursuant to the county's judges, the judges, or for Illinois, it can be outdoors, so long as the person that is performing the service or ceremony will be recognized by the county's licensing satisfies the county's licensing requirements.
Okay, Attorney Thompson, this may be a trick question.
Okay.
Now again, who can perform the ceremony?
It has to be someone that, again, meets the requirements for that county where you reside. They meet their requirements. So, for example, in Illinois, judges are, under the law, able to perform the ceremony. A minister or religious leader who receives a license with the county of your residence can perform the ceremony. In other states, the leader, on a boat, the person that is, I forget the person's name that's over the boat, they can perform the ceremony.
What about the mayor?
The mayor, if it's recognized by the county, they can perform the ceremony. It just depends on what the county's requirements are. When I looked it up, it was the judges and the individuals that are religious leaders that are allowed to perform the ceremony. But you have to apply for a particular license for that purpose in Cook County.
Former First Lady Michelle Obama performed the marriage.
She did, and that again, she had to have satisfied the requirements for the county in which she performed the marriage. And I'm not certain if that was in Cook County, but
it was Chicago.
It was in Chicago. It definitely, the marriage took place in Chicago, but that doesn't mean that the people that were married reside in Chicago.
I see.
Right. So it depends on where those individuals reside and what the county requirements are there. So I'm not willing to say what they're, because I'm not certain if that was a Cook County resident that got married. I don't know where they reside. So that's going to determine whether or not they can get a license.
Very good. What are the things that will disqualify you from getting married?
What disqualifies you from getting married is, for example, if you're a bigamist. You cannot, legally, you are not entitled to get a marriage license if you're already married. If you have a civil union that is registered in the state of Illinois, then you cannot marry someone else. You have to, invalidate one before you can marry somebody.
Can you distinguish a civil union?
A civil union is a creature of law, like the marriage license. But the difference is a marriage was recognized by the church, the religious institutions, before the license, the government license was actually recognized. So the civil union is actually, from beginning to end, something that was created by the law. And under the civil union, it is pretty much a marriage, except for the fact that the benefits that you can obtain using a civil union are different. Under a marriage license or a marriage, both parties are able to receive benefits under state law, the state of Illinois, and federal law. Under civil union, you're only entitled to the benefits that arise under Illinois law. So, for example, if two people get married, and one of the people have a pension that is provided under federal law, like they're a federal employee, the other person would not be entitled to share in that pension pursuant to the civil union. If they have a marriage, then under marriage laws in the state of Illinois, that couple would be, both parties would be entitled to receive the benefits of that pension, that federal
Under
pension.
Illinois law, but not federal law.
Not under federal law, right. So if it's a federal pension, then both parties, only the person that is the recipient of the pension, who's the federal employee, can receive the benefits of that pension. So there really isn't a real benefit to the civil union, compared to the marriage, you might as well just go on and get married if you're going to do that, because things happen and you want to be able to make sure that the other person and children are covered in when they need it. So but it's there. So for whatever reason, if certain people would prefer to do a civil union versus a marriage, that option is there, and it's there for not just homosexual couples, it's there for heterosexual couples.
Very good. Attorney Thompson.
Okay, and the other thing that we need to, with regards to disqualification, under Illinois law, relatives cannot marry. So, for example, you can't marry your mother, you can't marry your father, you can't marry aunts and uncles. However, first cousins can marry if they're over the age of 50, or one of the cousins that are married is sterile.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Again, please call in. This is some serious information. The number is 312-738-1060. 312-738-1060. Okay, who can get married?
So again, in Illinois, the same-sex couples can get married, heterosexual couples can get married, so long as you're over the age of 18. Now, if you're under the age of 18, then you would need consent to get married. And 16 to 17, plus some months or whatever, they have to get consent before their parents' consent before they can marry. Then again, after that, you still have those other requirements that we just spoke about that need to be satisfied in order to marry. But there's no longer any type of restrictions with regards to race or anything like that. I do know that when it comes to there has been some situations where parents will leave different things in their will, stating that they will give their children monies and different things if they choose a person who has a certain religious background or something like that.
Is that enforceable?
Yeah, as far as their marriage, their will is valid, and the people can make restrictions as to who they want to give their money to. You can make those type of restrictions.
That is a serious restriction.
Right. But as far as the government can't make that. Now, there is the ability of religious institutions to say they won't conduct a marriage ceremony. But again, obviously, that's not going to prevent you from getting married, because you can always go to the courthouse and get married.
But again, that's a fine line distinction. If your particular denomination, if I understand you right,
Right.
if your particular denomination does not accept same-sex marriage, you cannot force the pastor or the reverend to
Right.
to
Well, understand there's plenty of well, not plenty, but there are religious faiths that will not allow other people to get married. You know, if you've demonstrated a lack of responsibility with regards to taking care of children and different things, if you've fallen short with regards to fidelity, there are faiths and there are pastors that will not allow you to marry. You see what I'm saying? So that is not the restriction is not limited really to just same sex. I mean, if we're going to be honest, right? The religious institution and their pastors do have discretion that existed before this whole same sex marriage conversation began. So I remember a situation, and then there's certain situations where if you had children out of wedlock, they would restrict the place that the marriage could take place. So the churches have exercised a certain amount of discretion with when they're going to give you that ability to marry, and when they'll give you that permission to divorce. Remember, I mean, in certain faiths that still exists for certain faiths.
That is correct.
Right. So,
well, Attorney Thompson, is there a federal law, or is this governed by state law individually?
States have the right to create the requirements for marriage. It's not the federal government. So you won't see requirements under the federal law with regards to marriage. That is, the federal government looks to the states to identify the requirements for marriage. Now, again, and the reason why same-sex couples can marry is the Constitution. Remember, there was a case that was filed with the United States Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court came in and said, if you give it to heterosexuals, you have to give it to the heterosexuals. So, and that was with regards to those benefits that are available to married couples under state law. So that's how that came about. So it's not that the federal government stepped in and said that you have to. There's a law that says that you have to recognize. It really was the Supreme Court that came in and said whatever federal law exists and allows for certain benefits to be extended to heterosexual couples will now have to be given under equal protection.
Okay, but again, do you have the statistics in terms of how many states allow same-sex marriage?
No, I do not know how many states have it on their books that allow same-sex marriage. I do know that Illinois was one of the first to give the civil union, to advocate for a civil union. No, I do not know how many states have authorized it under their law. Again, what my understanding is that the Supreme Court came in and did the equal protection. So they gave, under the Constitution, equal protection would allow everyone to do it. Now, there are some states are now trying to address the same-sex marriage thing by eliminating the marriage license.
Let me ask you about that. Okay, are these states that have, by legislation or whatever, executive order, have established in those states that same-sex marriage is permissible? Are you saying that some states are trying to retract and take away that ability?
Right. So since the Supreme Court came in and said, okay, marriage needs to be available, the benefits of marriage need to be available to all parties, they recognize that under the Constitution there's going to be a real fight if they say that same-sex marriage is illegal. So what they're doing in Alabama has passed in January. It came out a bill that was passed in their committee to eliminate the marriage license. and the ceremony. So that thereby there will be no requirement in their state whereby their state officers or employees would have to say, hey, you, whether you're heterosexual or homosexual, are permitted under our state to marry. That's what a license is, right? It's permission.
Okay.
It's considered permission to marry. Now, the reason why we were talking about who can get married as far as relatives, that's really where that license was. Because remember, the marriage was recognized by the church first. It wasn't the state, it was the church that said, hey, we're going to marriage and have the ceremony and so forth. The licensing was really to, and the blood test was really to make sure that as a matter of public health, people weren't marrying their relatives. And this is historically individuals. I mean, you have, before America existed, kings and queens would allow relatives to marry so that they could keep the property in the family, right? So now you come, everybody travels to the United States, and the science improves, and we recognize, hey, some of the deformities that we're seeing in our family are due to the fact that we are marrying within our, family. So the public health concern becomes, well, we don't need to do that. We need to encourage our citizenry to marry somebody other than their relatives.
Absolutely.
And so we'll recognize the benefits, for that married couple, but we're going to discourage families from marrying each other, members of their family. So the license was thereby a permission in the blood test. Remember, you get the blood test to make sure that the state was making sure, hey, are related here. You don't have to do that. We'll cover you with the property and everything. Everything will be. You can still get your property, but we don't want you creating deformed children. So that's where all of that. The license was a permission. We checked basically your blood test, and we know that you're not related, so you can marry. So now the state is saying, we don't want our, people feeling like they have to violate their faith in order to keep a job in the county, or the government. So if we eliminate the license, then no one has to. That state does not have to say, we permit or we give you permission to marry. You will then be able to satisfy that state requirement with the officiant, whoever under their law, their state's law, is allowed to officiate the marriage, and then they can get a certificate and register that with their state. But it's no longer will it be a license to marriage.
We want to point out that this is the Cook County Bar Association, and it's our responsibility, to the extent we can, to give you information you could use. Our former president, Dartesia Pitts, had a marvelous year. Our new president, Yuri Clark, is going to have a great year.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are here for you. This is our information, 312-630-1157. This is the opportunity for you, citizens of the Chicago metropolitan area, to call the Cook County Bar Association for our Lower Referral Program. Please, just call, hit extension 1, and then you will be connected with someone on staff to give you our referral list. Now we're going to try to move quick, because we want to cover some ground. Because we want people to call 312-738-1060. Attorney Thompson, how will same-sex marriage law affect the civil union in Illinois?
The same-sex marriage law, so again, in Illinois, civil unions existed. That was the compromise, because there was some political backlash regarding, possibility of having a law that would allow in the state of Illinois heterosexual couples to marry. So the idea was, okay, if we do civil unions, then homosexual couples can marry, and at the same time, the institution of marriage would not be, I guess, offended or disrupted. But legislature understood that they still had to deal with the Constitution. So the law that was enacted in the state of Illinois allowed both, when it was enacted, it allowed both heterosexual and homosexual couples to have a civil union. Again, so the degree to which that civil union could incorporate the federal benefits was limited, obviously, because it's a state law, and the state of Illinois nor any other state can regulate federal benefits. So the federal government would have to have passed a law to say, okay, if people marry in any particular state, these federal benefits will be available to both couples, and that just didn't happen. Well, no, I'm sorry, that did happen. The federal law did come into play, and the Supreme Court went in and interpreted to say, hey, you got to extend these benefits. The federal law did come into play, but you had to extend the benefits to both heterosexual and homosexual couples. That is required under equal protection. So,
what are some of the criticisms of the law?
The criticisms are that, of course, it offends the institutions of marriage that are defined by a religious text. So, it's not just the Christians, it's the Muslims, there's a lot of different faiths, and their religious texts basically state that it's got to be a marriage between a man and a woman.
What are the positive effects?
The positive is that we don't have any type of law that can be used as precedent to eliminate benefits for one group to another. In the United States, case law sets precedent, and what you do with one case can be applied to another. And so we don't want to have any precedent that is set where one group of people will be eliminated from receiving the benefits that are available to the larger population simply because of some particular characteristic. Now, what I do want to point out with regards to the benefits and with regards to the elimination of the marriage license, the benefits, and I would like to hear your opinion too, is that now you don't have that debate. If everyone is able to get married, and there is no possibility of offending anybody by you getting married, then there is no debate with the homosexual community or the heterosexual community. Everyone is able to get married. They're able to do so on their own terms, and the marriage that they have is by definition theirs. They created it. Whatever goes on in it, wrong or right, is for them. It's not something that the state permitted or created or contributed to. So the liability and the benefits of that marriage belong to those couples and no one else. And that, in one respect, could be argued that increases the amount of privacy that a family has, that increases the amount of autonomy that a family has, and it strengthens the constitutional protections regarding state action. We have a variety of amendments to our Constitution that prohibit state action in individual life, and this would strengthen that.
We have 30 seconds.
Okay, so stay tuned to this discussion regarding the elimination of the marriage license. I don't think this will be the last time we talk about it. Thank you for signing in to the Cook County Bar Association's Live on Can TV show, and we look forward to seeing you and hearing your calls in the future on Mondays at 6:30.
We have about 13 sessions, is that correct?
Yes.
So we're looking forward to a new season. God bless.